I'm the former WBF International Super Featherweight Champion and former WBF All Africa Lightweight Champion. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another awesome, exciting show on Ringside Talk this evening with your host, David Rajuili. Today, I've got a very special guest, a man that's been around the world promoting fights, promoting fighters, managing fighters, with a lovely history in kickboxing and in boxing. He had, as a pro, 36 fights, 26 wins, 16 of those came by KOs and 8 losses. In his kickboxing career, he went on to have 20 fights, 10 losses. In his amateur boxing career, he had 10 fights, 9 wins, and 1 loss. He's managed and promoted many great fighters around the world, especially South Africa. He has managed to put me on the map, winning one of these titles behind me, the All Africa Champion. I'd like to introduce you, the one and only, I call him Papa Steve, from Kalakoda Promotions, Steve Kalakoda.
Very much, David. It's really nice to see what you're doing in boxing. Belt at the back there.
Yes.
It really gives me, when you're promoting boxing, it's not just what the boxers do but it's also they can win as many belts as possible. But it's when you've been a promoter to know what they're doing after boxing. And I'm really happy after boxing, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, Papa Steve. Thank you very much, Papa Steve. The viewers don't know, I call you Papa Steve. You were like a father to me in my boxing career, I think for 3-4 years when I was living in Cape Town. But we will get to that story later on. Papa Steve, I called you onto the show today. Firstly, I would like you to please just tell the viewers who you are. I've told them a little bit about you, just who Steve Kalakoda is, where you're from, where you were born, and just a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, and your early childhood, Papa Steve.
Well, I was born in Cape Town and lived in District 6 from the age of 1 to about 2. And it was actually in District 6 got my first introduction to boxing. So my boxing career really took off when I joined the Navy, a physical instructor in the Navy when I was 22 years old, and I was introduced to boxing on a higher level, at the amateur level, when I was in the Navy and Marines for 26 years. And after my thing as an amateur, I fought some of the best amateurs South Africa produced, the late Basil Thomas. I fought Brett Taylor, who was I fought Brett Taylor 3 times.
Yes, we all know Brett Taylor.
I remember one time in the City Hall in Durban, it was the first ever six fight. He won the fight. He was a brilliant boxer, and he was voted best. So in my amateur career, that was one of my highlights, to fight somebody like him, Durban City Hall. So yeah, my off in the Navy, I became a sports officer, which helped me for promoting. I was in the Navy. Being a sports officer, you have to learn and doing sporting events, athletic events, boxing events, the trade to when I left the Navy to become a professional boxer. So yeah, that was the beginning for me.
Oh, wow, that's very amazing, Papa Steve. So what I'm hearing from you is during your time in the Navy, you had your amateur, and during that time is when you actually started to learn about promoting. As you say, you were doing little bit shows, in the Navy already. So that was getting
Yes.
you prepared for going into promotion, you could say.
Yeah, when you do events, it's a completely different thing to being a promoter outside, because in the military, it has to be on time, everything has to be 100%, has to be. In the military, 8 o'clock is not 1 minute past 8. You learn to do things properly. And I'm very happy for all the years, which was very good for me. It helped my organization. When I became a professional promoter, it was my apprenticeship.
Yes, your apprenticeship you did in the Navy. That's very amazing. As you were saying as well, you were doing that before you went on to become a professional.
I never became a boxer.
Okay.
I had more than 100 amateur fights. I fought at the South African Championships. I represented the Navy in championships. And when I stopped boxing at the age of 32, about 100, just over 100 amateur fights. And in championships, you have 3-4 fights in 2 or 3 days. You can have a lot of fights as an amateur, which helped you as a pro. I'm a professional because I was in the military and the Navy at that time. Professional. I had a very good job. I had a subsidy in my house. I had free, so I didn't want to become a professional. I was happy, but I think as an amateur, I remember fighting in Johannesburg, Wembley, Iceland, and at amateur events, those 5,000 people. So it was like a pro. All the fights were high quality because you're fighting again. I've just mentioned the late Basil Thomas. I've just mentioned, Fani van Staden, Harold Volbrecht. All those guys were amateurs those years. So the quality was extremely high at that time. You didn't want to.
Yes, I could only imagine at that time, even those names you just said, good fighters, even Harold Volberg, even Brett Taylor. We grew up in South Africa hearing about those kind of fighters, and it must have been very, very entertaining and very good around those times. Did you ever suffer?
Yeah, the good thing about those years was the guys that became professionals those years, I'm 87, early 80s and 70s, were all amateur boxers, South African champions. They were all very good. And those years had over 80, maybe 100, 155. Why the standard of boxing those years were very high. Like Brian Mitchell, you look at Corey Sanders, you look at the late Corey Knutser, you look at Gerry Coetzee, you look at Francois Botha, Harold. Out of those names that I've just mentioned now, there are 3 heavyweight champions. And they didn't win a major title. Gerry was a WBA world champion. Cole was a WBO former heavyweight champion. Francois Botha, IBF. All 3 of them won those titles outside of South Africa. The standard in the 70s of boxers. And Brian Mitchell was one of our best. And he also had a long days. That is not the case, So I think that is that we don't have the same standard of those years because men and women can become professionals without having, say,
Anyway,
they don't even have to have, some of them don't have to have an amateur
amateur fight, yeah.
record. That you in the 70s and 80s.
Yes.
So that's the reason why I box. And if you look at amateur boxing at the moment in South Africa, we don't have amateur boxers that can win Olympic. If somebody wins a Commonwealth fight, then we're very lucky. If they get a win in the Commonwealth. So I think, for me, having fought as an amateur in that time, I think something needs to be done in South Africa, the level of amateur boxing, and then we will get good professionals like the ones.
I hear you, Steve. I hear you. Steve, I just want to ask you quickly, if you can just maybe reset your screen quickly so that we're having a bit of feed break. If you can just reset your window quickly, Steve.
1 second.
And then in the studio, they can play the intro there for us, please, quickly. While we reset here. Okay, guys, I'm just speaking to Mr. Steve Kalakoda, and he's just resetting his browser so we can hear him a bit more clearer. Steve is one of the all-time great promoters in South Africa. He promoted me for one of my belts here behind me for the All Africa title. We're going to catch up with him now, hear more of what he has to say. Very interesting that he was in the army doing amateurs, and while being in the army,
Right. Okay.
There we go. Much better. Yes.
You happy?
Yes, 100 times better, Steve.
Okay.
Yes, better. Yes, man. So you were telling us about the difference with the levels with the amateur boxing back in those days and what you're having now. And you touched on something very nice with it's like also work, like it gave me something to think about, that back in the days, you said the amateurs had mostly over 50 to 80 amateur fights before they turned professional. These days, anyone could turn professional, as you say, and you say you don't have the same skills of fighters as you did back in the day. Can you continue with that for us, please, Steve? Very interesting.
Yeah. You 50. Those years, if a fighter gets to represent his in the national championships, 50 fights is almost he will have. Fighters that win, that had an opportunity, unless you're a knockout in your own province before you get to the national championships, you can do it. But most fighters that represented their provinces were fights. So my point is, they organized tournaments almost every week.
Yeah.
And those years, amateur boxing was now
like it was boxing.
It's not a school sport.
Yeah.
It was a school. When you go from Cape Town, you go up those years to the Transvaal and fight there. Boys, they've already had 20 fights, man. Or when they already had they've already had 15 fights. I took my son up to the South African Championships as a junior. 3 fights, and he ended up fighting Ruben Groenewald, finals as a welterweight of the junior division. And after that, Ruben, 16 years old then, not long after that, Ruben Groenewald and Virgil became a professional boxer. But
yes.
I mentioned him too, they became a very good boxer. And but if you was asking him before he became a professional, probably more than 100. So that was the difference now. You know,
Okay.
if we can lift the standard of our, we would automatically the standard of our professional boxing will be better. There's another important point is the organization of tournaments at amateur. In the 70s, amateur tournaments were held at schools Saturday nights, and it was well attended, it was well organized. So I can't say if that is the case now. Maybe it's not the case. That's why you. And but I think if we can, I'm sure they can do something about that. And the boxing will go up. I just want to make another point for you quickly.
Yes, Steve.
You know, many years Mike Bernardo and Zorile Mbichi to Tijuana in Mexico. I don't know if you've heard about Tijuana in Mexico. Tijuana
Yes,
is
I heard about it.
where the best fighters in Mexico, they come out of Tijuana. They came to fetch us in San Diego, and we drove over. I stayed there for a week. And what I noticed in Mexico was that every municipality in that city had a community hall that was a boxing gym. Every community hall, there were maybe 150 kids and professional boxers. The most important point, the municipal coaches.
Yes.
They're in every session that I went to. Why is boxing so strong in Mexico? And Friday was till 6 o'clock at night. Late afternoon, the professional, but the whole day training. And the same coaches that train the amateurs, train the pros, and there could be 5, 6, 8 coaches, all paid for by the, and the municipality finance the city, the halls where they are training, and on Friday night, the same facilities are used by up and coming professional promoters. And you know, the municipality were helping promoters.
So the municipality is helping the professionals. Professionals are helping the amateurs. So everybody is helping.
The municipality was helping everybody. You know, all that community hall were paid for by. I asked them, who's paying these guys? So they said, no, everybody that's here, that training, fitness coaches are paid by the municipality. The whole, everything belongs to the municipality. So if you imagine if we have something like this in this country, the best boxers, the best professionals, and it's just we produce the best professionals. I think that is something in South Africa that we can look at, the standard of boxing in professional and amateur boxing.
Yes, 100%, Steve, 100%. Now, with going back to you going as a promoter, Steve, as you said, from the army, you know, you started doing your promotion. Do you remember when your first proper official, you could say, Kalakoda promotion fight night, first night you as a promoter? Do you remember any of those fights or that fight in particular?
You know, I will never forget the very first it was at the Weinberg Military Sports Complex.
Okay.
Event, the first event, the very first event, of America, was a French guy, and he had a contract. So my first promotion was not a small event. It was a Europe. I had a partner, and he said to me, can we do a show there in South Africa? And I said, yeah. I actually took out the license then. And we did an event at the Military Sports Complex. Was Henry Akinwande, the former world champion. Of course, Eurosport paid all the costs, and it was because States of America. So I had a fantastic start. My son also fought on a guy from Romania, and I can't remember the name now of one he fought. I also had another heavyweight from Nigeria. He was an All-African amateur champion, Franklin Gobi. A fantastic tournament, the first tournament at the Weinberg Military, and it was fun. I was very lucky with Eurosport. If you do an event on Eurosport, you're in Europe now. So if you make one mistake, they never come back. Eurosport came back years to do live events from Cape Town.
Oh wow, that's amazing to hear that. So
and you know, if you ask the best fighter on my first ball was actually the best. He was a former world WBO champion and a European champion, originally from Nigeria, but he grew up in England.
Okay.
You know.
Nice, Steve. Sounds like you started off with a bang, and from there, your show with the bang. Yes, and yes, I know Eurosports now, this side of the world, and that you say after your first show, they carried on working with you for shows and shows and shows.
I had events after that. You know, like I say, I was fortunate to work with Eurosport, and then later on I managed to get people to come on board, because then the events we promoted on Eurosport were also maybe 10 or 12 events like that. And breakthrough I had in boxing was with TV. You know, myself and Jeremy Bean was my partner. We were typically in the evenings till 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. Jeremy proposals after proposals for television networks to work with. One night I was sitting there with Jeremy, and he said to me, "Steve, we've done so many, never gonna get a contract with anybody." And eventually I said, "Let's not give up. We have to continue. We will find somebody." After maybe 100 or 150 proposals, that he did some really good proposals, you know, top quality proposals. Eventually, which was a 4-year contract, and then we had boxing every month. You were actually the fighter that fought the most on the Kwesi Bowl.
Yes, I remember.
What was TV is we could promote in South Africa, Ghana, Zimbabwe, Namibia, and we did very well, because it became so popular that we had
Friday night fight,
an average of 240 people, 200 watching those events. The reason for that was that we to countries, to the national television in different, like you could watch it in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Kenya, all over Africa, on your national television, and that is what we got very high ratings.
Yes, I remember that.
You know, it lasted only for 4 years, and some trouble, and then after that I stopped. I didn't have good innings. We all had myself and Jeremy had good innings, and you know, we tried to help as many fighters as we can. We had intercontinental titles on all the events, which was a requirement from Kwesi TV. Experience for me and Jeremy both, and stop. You know, I that was one of the highlights for me. But event that I really love doing it was the first event that was held in the Grand West Casino,
Grand
where
West
Mike
Casino.
Bernardo fought for the against an American guy for world title on that belt. But the most important part was it went live on SABC and live in Japan. And in Japan, because the event was held in Africa, had 18 million people on a Saturday afternoon.
Wow.
So that was a major highlight for them. I would never forget that tournament. The casino was and Mike won his fight. He won the WBF his fight, and it was the first K1 event that was
In South Africa,
and
yes.
You know, at that time K1 was a very popular brand in 110 countries over the world. So the whole focus of the kickboxer at that particular event.
Yes. Oh, wow. That's amazing, Steve. That's very amazing. Even how you could switch from making boxing events to going over to K1 events. And your events, sounds like they were just getting better and better and bigger and bigger. It never shrank down where you were in a situation where you wanted to quit and saw that the promoting is not going anywhere. Did you ever have such times in your career where the promotion was just like you felt is going nowhere? You're not getting any sponsorships. You're not getting any help from the government or anything like this. I must think for a promoter there must be a lot of hurdles you go over, you have, or you encounter.
David, if you have a military background, it's called fast bait.
Fast bait.
Fast bait in English means never mind what the problem is. So it's like that. Because if I have a moment like that, I have to, that's life. You find a solution. If there's a problem, you find a solution. Share something with you. You know, when you promote a boxing tournament that's going to be televised and 8 o'clock you go, 240 million people are going to see this fight. A day before the fight, the main event fight, the boxing board don't pause the fight. A fight might do wait. What do? You cannot stop the tournament. You have to make. So we had many plans like that. In fact, you fought for the WBF title. For the fight, the guy pulled out. He didn't want to fight you. We had his opponent.
Yes, I remember. Yes, yes.
Opponent that you won the title. But that's the situation. That's the question. There is no time. There's no time for thinking to do. You just find a solution to the problem.
Okay.
I thank God. That's what I did. We had a great team with Jeremy. We had a wonderful team. When there's anything happens, we find a solution.
Yes. And talking about solutions, and this is very interesting, especially coming from a promoter like yourself. I'm just going to touch on Conor Benn. If you were Eddie Hearn and Conor Benn was your fighter, and something like this had to come, where you have a big show coming up, and one of your fighters come test positive for drugs or steroid use. As a promoter, what do you do? How do you go about this? Even having to
I
carry on, you've got shows coming. Your fighter is the one that's positive. You're supposed to be.
well, you know, this was a very big fight. This is a very big fight, as a history, because those two boys were world champions and they were big names in boxing, and yet never happened in boxing. Can't remember something like this happening. But these two young guys were going to fight each other. They were going to their dads with, you know. So the fact that they tested positive, I haven't heard about the B sample. I don't know the ins and outs or the details, but I don't want to be in position, you know, just so close to the fact that happened 3 months ago. You know, I'm sure the promoter could have, but I don't, I don't, I don't know, I don't know why. I don't want to be in his position to find a solution for this. To be quite honest, because it's such a big fight. You know, I don't want to be in Eddie Hearn's shoes. There's now nobody knows what's going to happen. You know, I hope they can retest the guy or the B sample comes back negative, because everybody wanted to see this fight. I wanted to see this fight. Very history of it.
Yes, I understand. And yeah, it must be a very difficult time now for the promoter, Mr. Eddie Hearn, at the moment. Um, but yeah, I think as an athlete, also as a champion, you should stay as clean 100% all the time, every time, even in and out the ring, even after your boxing. But we will see what happens with that. So,
Yeah.
Papa Steve, you even said, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the famous guys you've promoted. I know you worked with Francois Botha. Francois Botha, for the viewers back at home, fought Mike Tyson before, known as the White Buffalo. You got a privilege to promote him and manage Francois, if I'm correct.
I got an opportunity for Francois, as you know, and he was definitely one of the most famous guys, like Bernardo and my son,
Yes.
that I've promoted, and not coach. And I remember calling was going to fight somebody there, and I said, Francois, the Japanese people, the K1 are interested about you in the K1. And I was really not expecting, because here's a former world champion, and he come into kickboxing in Japan. And when I called him, he said to me, when do you want us to meet the people in Japan? I said, we can meet them as soon as you get a visa. I will arrange for you to get a visa. I'll get a visa in South Africa. And the next week, we will contract for 4 years. And I worked with Francois in the K1 for 9 times a year in the K1. He became an instant success. People loved Francois. But the one thing I can say learned about Francois Botha, Francois Botha has that I've worked with him. Every training session that guy enjoys. He loves training. You know, he will never be late. He was one of the very few guys that I've coached that's always waiting for me. We were in Japan. If I'm still in my room, we have to meet. When I come downstairs, Francois would already be sitting waiting for me, and he's like that. So he was a great guy. But the most important thing about him, absolutely no fear.
Yes.
Francois Botha fear and nobody else. I remember sitting with Francois Kalakoda Prince in Tokyo, and he was a guy from Holland by the name of Peter Arts. Peter Arts, if one day came, he's the most devastating fighter. I've seen him break their legs, and now Francois is going to fight this guy. And Peter Arts and his team walked past me, and so I greeted them. And I said, Francois sitting next to me, I said, Francois. He said, what? Is that Peter Arts? I'm going to beat this guy. I didn't know what to say. This guy really doesn't have any fear for anybody. He said, I'm going to beat this happen. Oh, 4 days later, he fought Peter Arts in the final in the Tokyo Dome. He beat Peter Arts.
Wow. Okay.
So really teach a lot of potential boxers how themselves and how to win. In yourself, you can win. You don't look at somebody else. He never looked at anybody and thought this guy is better. When you fought Tyson, how did you feel? He said, like any other fight. You know, some people will be overcome with fear if they fight Mike Tyson. And look at that fight. Francois had no fear. He attacked Tyson from the word go. So that's what I've learned from an experience, and he's a wonderful person to work with, you know. You will think that someone who was Vladimir, he fought Vladimir Klitschko, he fought all the best heavyweight, he fought Evander, all the best heavyweight fighters in the world, but he had no attitude. Absolutely no attitude.
Yeah, I'm actually.
So it was a great experience for the 4 years that I've worked with him, and at that time it was really a good time, you know. And
Nice.
to work with us as a IBF World Heavyweight Champion and switch to kickboxing, Arch was the best. Another feared fighter in the K1 that everybody was scared of. France, Jerome Labana. Francois knocked Jerome. Nobody could believe what was happening. It's not possible. I would no kickboxing experience to fight at the highest K1 level and beat the top guys. I mean, have you ever heard of anything like that?
No.
Yeah, you can't compare table tennis with tennis, you know, from boxing, world champion. And he fought the best guys in kickboxing. Said to Francois, don't kick these guys because they were born. You've never kicked anybody. You've never trained. Block those kicks and box them. And we were very advice to my son, Virgil Kalakoda. I gave the same advice to Mike Bernardo in Japan. My advice was don't kick. Box them. Stay as close as possible. That was a winning recipe.
Yes. Nice, Steve. Nice. It sounds like you had some good journeys with, with Mr. Francois.
Me and Francois,
I'm gonna try.
My son Virgil. We were in Japan. The time that we spent in Japan was 16 years. Well organized tournaments, televised live all over the world. As I said, 110 countries. You know, if an event goes live and 28 million people watched it live, you know, it was just a great experience. And Japanese are wonderful people to work Very honorable.
Yes.
You never have to worry about anything.
Nice, Steve. Nice, nice. There's one time we wanted to go fight in Japan or in China. Still wish that could happen. But Papa Steve, I want to ask you a question. As a promoter, I've always wondered, as a promoter slash manager, what is it when you guys look at an athlete and what draws you to a certain athlete or a certain boxer? Is it you guys know this guy is good looking, he will bring money into the he's gonna sell seats, he's gonna make the promoter money, he's a good fighter, he's gonna go far, we will win champions with this person, they will bring us pay-per-view. What is it that a promoter looks into an athlete to work with them and to use? I've always wanted to know this.
Okay, they look at different promoters, look at different things. In America, you look at the promoter in Europe, and you're looking at the promoter. There's budgets, it's different budgets. So you can a good promoter in America will have a big budget, which means he can work with the best fighters in the world. The guys in Europe, if you look at the top, you look at the top promoters that in Europe, Eddie Hearn has got with a big streaming company that's worth more than $1 billion, and then you can go to Japan. They work with television networks like TBS, television, where they also have very big budgets. And then you come to African situation,
Africa.
in some provinces, reality, completely different budget. So my son was a boxer. I was a boxer. So professional boxing, when I was promoting, give the guys the best. But you use spending money that you don't have, So your question is, I think promoters everywhere only do with their best with a, what the for with fighters is obviously to win a major. Fighter can win a WBC title or a WBA, then can generate money for the fighter. He can get bigger purses, international exposure. There is pay. Let's say, for instance, if I must make an example, you win a WBC title, lightweight title, and someone wants that title in the United States of America or in England. First of all, they can now build you up to become a WBC intercontinental champion. Now you can go and defend that title in Europe, where you will get a very big purse to fight that purse. If he wins, things only get better the more. And later on, you can make, if the guy is names, and you can make deals with television, with Showtime, you can get a share of pay-per-view. That's why guys like Canelo, Davis, these pockets at the moment, and also in England, they make their money with because only 10 come to the event, but a million people can watch the fight at home on pay-per-view. $8 or pay $100, $99, So that's for fighters. But, David, not everybody can get there. I think there's there's the opportunities for South African fighters or African fighters to make it. There are fighters that have made it big time already. I mentioned someone like Harry Brian Mitchell. Brian Mitchell, very successful. Uyani Bungu, another he won the WBA title. And if you can get to that level, then guys can make a lot of money. Because if the fighter makes a lot of money, then the promoter can also make money. Because if I take the fighter to fight a deal with the promoter in America to have a percentage of pay-per-view or have a percentage of sponsorship over there. But in South Africa, it's very difficult to get that position unless you fight out.
Okay, interesting. Very, very interesting, Papa Steve. I never even knew. Very interesting. I knew I would learn a lot from this chat with you today, Papa Steve. But very interesting.
Yeah.
Now, can I say, the promoter needs the promoter needs the manager. No, the promoter needs the boxer, or is it the boxer needs the promoter?
Promoter can get any boxer he wants. Promoter can get any boxer. Don't fool yourself that he becomes very successful. The promoter needs the boxer. But the promoter can always find the best of it and build them up. But if he has a boxer that is just mentioned now, that get opportunities to fight in foreign countries, in Europe, and fight on pay-per-view, then the promoter hold on to that boxer because he's going to make money. Both of them are going to make money. I'll be quite honest with you. I think the advantage, that is a fact. The advantage is always because boxers come and go.
Yes, okay.
If the boxer is not happy with the promoter, that is always the reality of boxing. But for me, I think it's very, very important to have a good relationship with boxers. You were a very popular guy. You drew a lot of people to boxing. You were always smiling, but you had a great personality. Everybody loved you. Would have liked you to fight maybe for a WBC, or the important thing with promoting you was you make exciting fights. In Durban, in the casino, when you fought in Durban,
I remember.
It was a 12-round fight. Hunga.
Yes.
And it was promoters look. Here's a secret for me. I want, if someone sits at home and watches the fight, and he wants to go, he's not going to get up. Because he doesn't want to lose, to watch every second of that.
Second of the fight.
And if you can promote fights like that, fights where we promoted you were like that. It was from the first minute to the last minute. That personally, as a promoter, that's the kind of fighters I like. That come forward, that make exciting fights all the time, because that's what people pay to see.
People pay for. Yes.
If I get back and stay on the back foot, that's not the kind of fighter you want. That's not what people should. And so that is important.
So that is another point. Yeah, so that you could say is another point to a promoter, if we have any boxers watching out there, is also the type or the fighting style. The promoters look for that. Good fighting styles in fighters. a fighter that doesn't have to always win, but can bring exciting fights, keep the fighters in their seats, make sure that somewhat when they leave the arena, they say, one hell of a fight I saw there. Is that works as well
David,
on our.
let me share something with you that I've learned. I went to tournaments in Japan. I used to go to Japan for 16 years. You know what I've learned in Japan from the Japanese? We go to a tournament in the Tokyo Dome, 75,000 million people watch at home. You know which fighters? The ones that make exciting fights, that comes forward. Those, it doesn't matter what you look like, David. You know, they were not your looks. They worried about your heart, fighting spirit. Exciting fights in Japan, you're going to fight every month. That's why all the strategy to be aggressive and to be, and that's why I spent 16 years there, 8 times a year. And when I was promoting in South Africa, was the same strategy. Sometimes my partner different from me, but when I was making for A against B is just going to be an exciting fight. Now he's top of the ball. Okay, Kalakoda promotion because we made exciting fights. That I don't know if other promoters are looking to learn that in Japan. I've seen the success of that. And with question that if you make exciting fights, people will watch or they will pay the fight. And that's the case all over the world. Another thing is if you have a guy that if you think back of the late Charlie Weir, he was a knockout and he filled the stadiums because everybody wanted to see someone else. That's another thing. You know, if you see knockouts, if you see exciting fights, people are going to come and watch. So I that's what I'm looking for in as a promoter in fighters. But promoters are looking for that.
Okay, very nice, Steve. Very, very interesting. And yeah, man, it's very nice to see in depth of what you guys look for, what you've been through, and touching through some of your highlights. It must have been a amazing journey with everything you've done. So you said that you have. Okay, in boxing, you hang up your gloves. I don't know what you call it in the promotion world. You say you're done with promoting now, Steve?
So, yeah. You know, David, I've been involved with boxing. I'm not promoting anymore. I'm done. I've been in boxing for the only person I'm coaching at the moment is Ruan Fisher. Fisher, South African heavyweight. I don't know if you know Ruan Fisher. He was a former South African
heavyweight
All African heavyweight champion. Now, for 35 years, having coached mostly heavyweights, I've worked. Actually, let me add this to you. I'm going to work 3 weeks with the best boxing, the late best boxing, Emmanuel Stewart. When Lennox Lewis came to South Africa to fight world title, they trained in Johannesburg for 3 weeks. Some of my boxers to spar with him, and I went and stayed with him for 3 weeks. So for 3 weeks, I coaches in the world, Emmanuel Stewart. It was a major work with someone like that. I've learned a lot from him, you know. And I mentioned that earlier, but that's probably one of the major highlights in my life. As far as Ruan Fisher is concerned, I don't want to now waste my time on someone because you know yourself. If you coach someone, you have to stay a week with that person and build him up to become a world champion. The only person that I'm coaching at the moment is Ruan Fisher.
Okay.
The reason I'm coaching him because I might agree with him, but I know he's got the heart and he's got the size, he's got the reach, he's a fast learner, young guy, and I'm 100% sure that he will get to the top. You know, if a guy 100% in every training session, and you know, to coach heavy weights and to coach lighter weights is completely different. The work rate is different. The power is different. Need to train him to knock people out. People don't want to watch a 6'9" guy and go the distance. They want to see knockouts. So you have to have the ability to knock people out. And when I started with Ruan, we had 5 fights, 5 knockouts. His last fight in the first round knockout. You know, he fought in Germany, it was a first round knockout. So I thank God I had ability to teach heavyweights how to know way to teach them. Because so answering the only guy I'm involved with, I'm not promoting anymore. I'm 70. So so I've done it all. I thank God for the giving and the ability to have all over the years and the opportunities. But at the moment now, I'm retired and I'm only focused. And I'm sure he's going to get to the top.
Nice.
I've
got a question. I've got a question now for you, Steve, from one of the viewers that are watching. They're hearing you speak about your boxer, Ruan. Eddie Barrington wanted to know, can Ruan beat Tyson Fury? Could he take on Tyson Fury? That's one of the questions for the viewers.
Ruan is not ready to fight someone like Tyson Fury, number one. He is one of the most naturally gifted I have ever seen. This is my personal opinion. His footwork is the same like the late Muhammad Ali. Tyson Fury weighs 126 kilograms. He's a big guy, but like a lightweight. And I think his second fight with Wilder, him and he got a new coach. Was an assistant of Emmanuel Stewart. Taught Tyson Fury to use his size to go to put pressure on his opponent. And I think he didn't have to be an elusive guy. He's the most elusive guy. And I don't think he's in a position to fight Tyson Fury. Not now. You know, in a year. Let me put another point. I think Tyson Fury will beat Alexander Usyk.
Yes, you think so?
I think. That's how highly I rate Tyson. Very highly. I don't think Ruan is the same size as Tyson. 9. He's 128 kilograms. And not the same elusiveness, but he's got other strengths. But need more time to get to that level.
Tell me something,
not
Steve.
Now.
Sorry to cut you there again. About your fighter, Ruan Potts. If you can tell us just a little bit something before we end our show. I know he trained with the great Vladimir, not Putin. Listen to me. The great heavyweight fighter, the twins. He was the sparring partner.
Hey? Oh, you want to know of Ruan's experience?
Yes, he was Klitschko.
Is that your
Yes,
question?
he was the sparring partner for the Klitschkos. Sorry, I was saying Vladimir Putin for
Let
some
me tell you
reason.
what happened. When
My bad.
I started off with Ruan, I said to Ruan, I with Vladimir Klitschko. And he was just shaking his head and he's shaking his head. And Ruan told me afterwards when he walked in Durban, Wild Coast. He said when they walked away, he said to his father, nonsense, I will never be able to spar with Klitschko. I called him. I said, Ruan, Klitschko is confirmed. But I am first going to send you to New Zealand. Now you may ask, I sent
New
him to New Zealand, yes, to work with the best amateur coach of Oceania, all the islands and New Zealand. Lolo Humili, coach, he took many teams to the Olympic Games since 2012. To the Commonwealth. He went Olympic Games with fighters. And Ruan needed to learn the basics of boxing from a good amateur coach. He went to Klitschko. He went to New Zealand to train with an Olympic coach. He, at that time, could spar with some of the heavyweights. Parker was one of them in that gym.
Joseph
and
Parker, yes.
He had an opportunity to work with the best amateur coach while he was there. When he came back, it was now time for Germany, Austria to spar with Vladimir Klitschko. And one day, and he said to me, there is a problem. I said, he's going to waste his time. I have to apologize. I've made a mistake. The coach of Ruan said, ready to spar with someone with Vladimir Klitschko. Klitschko was a world champion for 10 years. You're going to get a terrible hiding over there. His coach, the father, made a commitment to me that he can go. He should go. So that before they had to finally book his ticket and everything, his father said to him, I've given Steve for you to go to Austria and spar with Klitschko. If you don't go, you take your stuff off this farm and I never want to see you again. And there Ruan was. Ruan was now sitting between his coach and at that his dad said, I don't want to see you again. You're going to spar with Klitschko or take your stuff and leave. The next morning he's booked the tickets. He's going to spar with Klitschko.
Oh, nice.
What happened was many articles in South Africa of people who said arrives the Sunday. The next Tuesday he's going to get the hiding of his life. 3 weeks later, and Klitschko fought Anthony Joshua. After Anthony Joshua, or Tyson Fury, I'm not sure. Afterwards, when Klitschko had his next fight, I think first fight was against Fury, so he sparred with him. When he sparred against Anthony Joshua, the first sparring partner in his camp was. I said to Ruan, you're either gonna live or you're gonna run back. If you're getting a hiding, that's all I need. He stayed there. He went for the second time. And he became the top sparring partner of Vladimir Klitschko.
Yes, I remember that. I remember Ruan was going up and down to help the Klitschkos at the stage, which was very good,
Yeah.
Steve, which was very good. So, Steve, I must say, actually, we can talk all night. We've come to the end of our awesome show. And
I forgot all my... No, thank you, David. I appreciate it. It's nice to share these men, you know.
yes, and it's very nice.
As I said to you when we started, I'm glad. I appreciate to be on your show, and I wish you to go from there.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you for having me on your shows. I fought many times for Mr. Steve Kalakoda. As I said, one of his fight nights, I actually won one of these, the All Africa WBF title for
It was
Steve
a great pleasure.
Kalakoda was promoting me. And you had me on your shows, Papa Steve. Thank you for being on my show. And I hope the audience enjoyed this talk show. We're having another interesting, a very, very special guest on Friday or Thursday. Stay tuned, guys. And thank you for tuning in to Ringside Talk this evening with your host, David Rajuili, and the great promoter, Steve Kalakoda. We hope you guys enjoyed it.
God bless you.
And God bless you all. And thank you very much.
Okay.
We'll see you guys for our next episode.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.